Thank you.
Okay, any council, any other questions from council? Councilor Roberto?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. He kind of answered this question a little bit, what Councilor Wong had asked you, but I had two questions, I guess. One being if you had ongoing operating dollars. I know there was mention of North Forge and an agreement there, so I don't know how long that agreement lasts. And then I guess secondary to that is whether or not there's a plan for the organization to be self-sustaining at some point. But from your answer to Councilor Long, I'm suspecting that the answer to that is that you would be seeking out funders, I guess, to help with that.
Yeah.
sustainability.
Yeah. So in terms of sort of current status, like we have funding in place to maintain the lease until March 31st, 2025. So gives you that perspective. We do not have operating funding in place for a full staff, for a full continued staff. That is an aspect of the work that we're focused on right now is sort of determining where best to invest the funding that we do have. And so that is mostly revenue that's been generated from running some of the projects and workshops that we have already. And at the same time, the self-sustaining question, I think it's not realistic, I don't think, to say that we will ever be entirely self-sustaining on membership fees. I don't see how that's a possibility, just given the size of our community and the size of the costs involved with an operation like that. So there's 8,000 square feet of lease space and a substantial amount of equipment and maintenance requirements and things like that. Right now, we're focused on being able to either hire or contract instructors or leaders for workshops or to rely on volunteers. So we have a mix of both. So sometimes we've had one staff member and 2 or 3 volunteers to lead workshops, that sort of thing, as a way of being able to put those on and see that participation from the members of the organization. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, just for myself, I appreciate you stepping up because there was a lot of questions about when North Forge closed and what was happening now. I appreciate the clarity and coming forward to us. Are you looking for more people on your board of directors?
Yes.
Follow for that?
Yes, so we have been so focused on the agreements and the getting basic funding and a sort of a near-term strategy in place that we are recruiting for the board has been relatively limited. Now we're, I'll say, in a position where we are actively trying to identify other board members. And honestly, we're very much a working board. We meet weekly and we all leave with lots of actions. And that's just what we need to do right now. But we're enjoying it, and hopefully we can find some other like-minded members to be a part of that board. Yeah.
That was an honest answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. So our takeaway from you is an ask.
Yes.
For 55,000 right now, and an update on where this is and where you plan for it to be going.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So we will take that back as council, administration also, and there'll be some kind of direction back. Is that correct, administration?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll leave behind.
Let's give you a little free stuff. Great. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move along to community comments and feedback. If there's anybody from the community or administration, you have answers to provide now, or how do you do that?
No, Linda has not had a chance to put together answers from the previous question.
Okay, and I also should identify that our CFO and our Director of Development unexpectedly are away for family emergency, which we hope are well also. So we may have to summarize some reports tonight, and any questions, we'll have to get back to everybody on that also. So just wanted to be honest about that. So any community comments or feedback from anybody this evening for committee of the whole tonight? Anyone? We're gonna move along to reports. So 6.1, like I had said, is our Director of Development report. So our CAO will just summarize the report, and then any questions, council, feel free to ask the questions, and we'll get the responses back that may come of it. Administration?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this is a report from Lawson France, our Director of Development, providing council an update on the Investing in Canada infrastructure projects. For the road renewal, Maple Leaf has completed 6 rotations during this season. Over the past month, curbs have been installed on several projects. Streets, sidewalks have been poured, and driveways restored in the Juniper area. The asphalt reclaimer was operational for the last 10-day rotation of July and has reclaimed Juniper Drive, Mallard Crescent, Pintail, and Sandpiper. Catch basin work has been completed on Westwood Drive and the Grey Wolf Bay. There's some scheduling for concrete, which was problematic over the last few weeks, as the bridge project was taking a majority of the community's concrete at the time. The reclaimer is expected to complete the remaining roads in mid-August, and the asphalt plant is expected to start up at the same time. Thompson Drive and portions of Westwood Drive will be milled in preparation for the new asphalt. For the water and wastewater projects, Accurate HD has completed 2 rotations. The main line and all services will be completed on the southern portion of Westwood, except for a small section at the Thompson Drive intersection. On the north side, the main line has been installed from Thompson Drive to Mallard, Crescent and Pike intersection, and the mainline connections to the side streets, Mallard, Pickerel, and Pike, have been completed. Once Accurate returns from days off, they'll be drilling the remaining section on the north side and working on service connections to homes. In mid-July, the Manitoba Water Services Board awarded phases 3 and 4 of the construction work for Centennial Drive East, Dominion Bay, Centennial Drive West, and Confederation Bay to Alsan Underground Services Limited. Alsan expects to begin work on Centennial Drive East in mid-August. For the Aquatic Center, foundation work for the building continues. Steel piles are expected to be completed by August 2nd, and once complete, work will move to the cast and place piles. Additional excavation work will be required prior to the beginning of the cast and place piles. And they've done some additional land work, landscaping to help with site drainage. And that is the director's report.
Thank you. Is there any questions for clarification that council wants asked and then brought back? Councilor Wong?
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question for the new Westwood Drive. I've been asked for a lot of people ask me about the question. I also noticed that ever since they reconstruct the road, looks like the road is choked to smaller. I probably understand it's a standard, but my question is, what is the benefit by choking the road like that to the resident and for the snow clearing? And do we save money by choking the 3 feet narrower? The material wise, are we saving money by doing all that?
Thank you, administration.
I don't have a complete answer for your question. I'll have the director provide the answer. But what I've requested the department, because we've been getting so many questions about Westwood Drive, we've requested that the engineers put together an explanation for the community so that people understand their rationale. But I don't have specific answers at this time. We'll have to get back to you from the director.
Appreciate that. And also, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And also, because from the report, we never know that they're doing this way. All we know is that the road is renewed. So I personally appreciate will be give us a heads up before the construction doing, because I had no idea the road is going to be narrower. All we know, we are putting the money to repave the road and make it nice and new. So those kind of information, I prefer to have it ahead before the job starts. So at least we're on the same page, right? Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor, oh, sorry, did you want to reply?
Fair comment. We'll bring those comments back to the department.
Councilor Patrick?
Thank you. Now my question, I guess, is about Accurate HD. I drove through the area there 2 days ago. If we're gonna be starting to repave the roads in mid-August, Accurate HD is gonna have to do a lot of catch-up, because right from Pintail all the way around to Sturgeon, one side of the road there's no work done at all there. There's no curbing, they're not ready for asphalt.
Bring the comments to the department.
Councilor Overdofer? Sorry, Councilor Patrick, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Overdofer?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I didn't really have a question, just a couple of comments. One, I guess just in response to Councilor Wong's comment, I do recall Director Servants letting us know that in certain areas, the road will be brought back to what the standard width, I guess, should be, but I didn't really, I guess at that time, I didn't really make consideration into what the implications would be of that, and so now we're facing those implications of the questions from the community, right? So I think just something for us to be mindful of if that comes up again, that maybe we highlight it more and maybe better communication with the community about why that's happening, stuff like that, right? And I don't remember who was at the meeting or when it happened. I do recall it being mentioned before. But hindsight is always 20/20, right? So we really thought that we would have that it would be, I guess, there'd be this many implications for it, but the other comment I have is just for administration. And I know I had mentioned this not in a meeting, but just to administration before about complaints from folks in the Riverside neighborhood about the piles being done with the aquatic facility being outside of like our bylaw in terms of whatever our noise disturbance bylaws. I can't remember the name of it right now, sorry. But I just wanted to bring up that that's still happening outside of those hours. So.
Administration.
Yeah, if we could get the specifics of when and where, because the contractors have 24/7 video. So for some of the previous complaints we've gotten, we've had them investigate. They can tell us if the contractor's working at that time. So if we have those specifics, then I can follow up and we can have that addressed.
Okay, I can get that to you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Great. Thank you for the report on that. We're gonna move into finance reports. 7.1 is a memo from our CFO in regards to the utility account for 343 Westwood. Our city manager is gonna give
I
us
will
as much
attempt to
information.
summarize this. So this is from our chief financial officer to council and myself. The utility clerk was reviewing a number of accounts. And they found that one of the accounts had been estimated for quite some time. It appears from 2019 to 2024. So the homeowner was receiving estimated bills and they were paying those bills on time, in a timely fashion. But what was determined is that normally when a person gets a bill and there's an estimate or something wrong with the meter, it'll say there's something wrong with your meter. Please contact the city. For whatever reason, that note was not put on any of the homeowner's bills. So they were unaware that there was something wrong with their meter. With the changes in some of the technology that we bought, we've upgraded some of our meter reading equipment. And they were able to get a reading, which basically covered from 2019 to now, which resulted in a massive bill, I believe $4,300 roughly, being generated. The CFO is authorized to cancel when there's certain errors on the city's behalf. So I believe she canceled errors that would have been penalties. And then she did a calculation deducting what had been paid on the estimated bills versus what the total consumption of the bills would be. I believe the homeowners would like some considerations from council, in which the CFO cannot make any further adjustments under the way the bylaws are written. So I believe the CFO wanted to bring this error or this problem to council's attention. And then if council wanted to make any special considerations for this homeowner. That's the best of my understanding of this. Any other questions, we'd have to defer to the CFO when she returns.
Great, so. Good, trying to explain this to us, and I'm sure we have questions for our CFO. But does anybody have any general questions right now? And we'll have to take this back, obviously, I think. I don't even know if we would be able to discuss this meeting and answer. Could we discuss in camera with our CFO before the regular meeting of council on next Monday? So it can be brought forward as a resolution if there's a change?
We could set up a meeting like that. I think the consideration that I would be most concerned about is because the bill is now set, it would start to assess penalties. So council wants to direct us to hold those penalties until you make a decision.
Yeah.
Where you have the time to discuss, otherwise the homeowner is going to incur charges on top of this. So if you're wanting to wait and have further discussions, I would recommend a consideration of that. Just so that we note it in the minutes and then act accordingly.
Okay, so I'll ask, oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, and I look at the bill and look at all the number on the bill. How could we come with a number 773.2. But we didn't even have 2019, when you look at the bill down there, there's also estimate, there's a number. How do we separate today's number for the previous number, 2019, before June 19, right? We should have some kind of number on like March. If the meter is working.
I'll have to defer your question. to
We have
the
no
CFO.
number, so it's very hard for me to decide the legit of the number that we have.
Right.
So we need more information.
Yep.
And bring more.
Yeah, I won't be able to answer that, sorry.
Okay, Councillor Dunmore?
I think what, I don't know if I can answer this, but I think what we got is that now we can read the meter, so we know that there is 7,000 cubic meters that we used over that time, when we weren't able to read it, right? And she just split it up over the last previous 12 months. So we know the total amount that was used. But I do think that this is, we're having issues with utility, and in most places, it's a completely separate unit from the city. I don't think this is the time right now to just say, let's start a separate utility. But I do think that we need to maybe have we talked about having separate committees for things that came up. And this utility issue's been an issue for the last, well, since I've been on council, and definitely before. So I don't know, I think that we should probably think about doing a separate subcommittee to not deal with just this item, but all the items, and be able to deal with them in a similar and respectful and decent way, so that way it's we're treating everybody the same. And we're figuring out our issues and our meter reading issues, which I think sounds like we're fixing that up now, being able to read the meters better. But I know there's times when, you know, there's even reference in this, in our CFO's document saying that in cases where we're reading a meter or unable to read a meter and we're just going by previous use, you usually get a separate notice saying, hey, check your meter or read your meter and contact us. And in this case, I think it wasn't put in there. We gotta make sure that that's happening, but a lot of times, I don't know how many people actually read it. And you know, it's on us, it's not on the city to make sure you read things. But it seems like it's causing problems, and I think that's something that a separate committee could try and figure out an issue or a method to help. Whether that's advertising or stating that in the mayor's Thursday notice or putting it in the paper or something, but it's anybody reading that either, so. I just thought that I came to them.
So I think for this particular issue, we need to make a decision if council's comfortable in deferring any more penalties until we further discuss this and further discuss the utility and a committee moving forward. Is that correct? Since we don't have our CFO here, is that what you're looking for, administration?
Yeah, if the council wants to confer with the CFO and understand more what's going on, that would be the recommendation, that you make a note tonight that you'd like us to set up that meeting with the CFO. And that you're freezing the penalties on this particular account until you've sorted out what's going on.
And,
Go ahead, Councilor.
and right now, we can't make that motion, but yeah, I'd like to defer the penalties.
It would just be noted in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So if everybody's in favor, in the minutes, it's noted that we defer the penalties till we have a meeting with the CFO. Everybody in favor of that? All right, so we'll defer this. Were you having your hand up? I sometimes can't see
Yes,
your
I
hand.
just
Which
want
county
to ask the
sector?
question to the CFO. Because I'm not here to debate the system, I'm just asking the question. Based on the information I look at, since 2019, there's no reading, it's all zero. So now you have a upgraded system, all of a sudden the 770 cubic meter pops up. So my question is this meter been changed since 2019? It's always the same meter since the day when they installed? And I'd like to know that question. And if it's the same meter, they should have a previous reading at the end. So it cannot be zero.
Okay.
Okay,
You'll
thank you.
get that. Okay, we're gonna move on since we don't have our CFO here. We're gonna go to Public Works. We have a memo from the Director of Public Works, who is here tonight. In regards to request for a proposal for the traffic control poles and the head supply and installation. So I'll go to Director McLean.
Good evening. City council has allocated $400,000 in the 2024 budget for the supply and installation of all missing the damaged traffic control light poles and heads around the city. There's various intersections that are either missing a traffic pole or has one that needs to be replaced. So an RFP was posted on Merck's and closed on July 22nd for the supply and installation of these. There was only one bid received for this project, which is TriStar Traffic Control Systems. It came in at $336,000. Their bid, however, does not include any replacing any wiring, raceways, pits, or any controllers that may be needed for the installation of these. So there is a remaining amount in there of $64,000 that could be used as a contingency to cover any unforeseen costs in this project. So the ask is that this gets moved to the council meeting as a recommendation to approve this bid and to allocate the remaining budgeted amount for a contingency.
Pretty straightforward. Thank you. Any questions for the director, or can this move forward to a resolution for next Monday? This is Sunday. Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question about this replacement. How many intersection those traffic control blocks that we need to look into?
There is currently 3 intersections that require replacement of poles or like that's.
It's all identified on page 18 in the RFP. The exact locations and
Actually, I'm pretty impressed this company that they lay out all the potential, all the electrician, what they have, what they do, and I think the price is I guess reasonable at this point. So thank you.
any other questions from council? So I need a show of hands to move this forward to a resolution. Everybody's in favor of that for next Monday? Yep, it's good to go. Thank you. 9 is development. Memo from the Director of Development requesting additional funding for the removal of trailers in the Brentwood Trailer Court. This was something that was the direction of council that we discussed quite a bit in our budget. So do you want to summarize this?
Sure. So through the budget process, council directed the administration to demolish or seek quotes to demolish a number of the properties that we've inherited through the tax sale process, as a number of those properties are derelict and dangerous. The department has gone out and approached one of the local companies that has the asbestos removal capability in the community to get a quote, because in the past the quotes for a single demolished trailer was about $40,000. Leo's Home Decorating has come back. They've recently done some demolishing of trailers for insurance companies in the community. So we followed up with that. They were given a list of 6 properties to start. And they provided a quote to demolish those trailers of $120,200 plus GST to demolish 6 properties. The recommendation is that because we've only been allocated $100,000 through the budget, that we be allowed to move up to $30,000 from small capital to cover the difference with a small contingency in there, so that the properties can be demolished before the winter comes. Normally, because small capital is used administratively, but the CFO felt because you've given us a limit of $100,000, that we should come to council to make that move up to $30,000 and seek your permission.
Thanks, and thank you for the clarification. So we've already approved spending this 100,000. They just need approval from council to move 30,000 more. So does anybody have any questions on this, or Councilor Oberhofer?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The question I have is about, I guess, the space at the waste disposal grounds in terms of asbestos. Just with the fire at Westwood School, and their concerns that there's going to be need to increase that. My understanding is that we have to request that through the province, I believe. Is there a cost to that? And I guess, so I'm just wondering if there's going to be additional costs that come later because we have these demolitions to do, and now we've had a fire and potentially asbestos in that.
I would have to defer to Neil. I'm assuming there would be costs. That would be out of landfill operating.
To increase the area for asbestos or to create a new area for asbestos, there would be engineering costs, or would have to be engineered. Through the province and use that area. So yeah, there absolutely would be costs. I actually 2 weeks ago, I had conversations with the Northern Environmental Officer, and she was going to help us kind of up with some ideas of our existing asbestos area. Doesn't mean there's going to be a foolproof solution or anything like that, but at least something that can help us along the way. Knowing that these trailers are coming potentially, if they are all asbestos, that's what's required as well, right? So trying to find anything we can from Thompson to stay in Thompson. That being said, anything outside of Thompson, we're kind of trying to defer that elsewhere just so we can keep the space for
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I know Westwood School isn't on the agenda, but I guess I just have. Do we have sufficient space for the asbestos if all 6 of these trailers have asbestos required to be removed? And then we also have that additional site that has to be cleaned up.
It depends on the size or the amount of asbestos that they require. If they're saying that the entire Westwood School is considered all asbestos and needs to be all disposed of as asbestos, along with 6 full trailers, that would be tricky, but that's when they're bringing the promise to help me along with those, see if there's any big something. Speed up our process to make our area either bigger or go up higher, whatever.
And so at this time, we obviously haven't been told that there's any asbestos, so we are only worried about this at this time.
I believe there is some asbestos in some of the trailers. I believe that when the city hired a company to do an inventory several years ago, the ones that we owned at that time were sampled. And that report we provided to Leo's, they would then determine if it's just a bulk demolish or if they're gonna remove that first. Which would impact the amount of waste that would go to the asbestos stuff versus the regular dump. But I don't have the specifics on how they were planning to do their demolition.
And just to clarify, I know that we haven't been told that there's any asbestos at Westwood School. It's a concern given the agents, so that's why I brought forward that question.
We're seeing across the province, Councillor, that you'll see it a lot in the city of Winnipeg and then just there. That the province is starting to deem any older buildings, basically from before the 80s, they just blanket. Classify them as asbestos containing. And it's creating headaches across the province for all communities on how to dispose of this.
So from what I'm understanding from the answer from Public Works is that if we do have issues with the amount of space we have for asbestos disposal, our asbestos disposal site, it won't come from small capital, out of our operating budget.
That would come out of landfill
Or landfill.
reserve or operating, yeah, that'd be a separate.
Also keeping in mind that that expense would be offset by the income that we would receive from them disposing of the asbestos at our landfill. Maybe we would be ahead of that and then what it costs. We keep buying stuff out of that landfill. Anybody any other councilors have questions? So is everyone good for this to be a resolution then for Monday? Consensus on that? All right, we'll bring that forward to Monday. Discussion 9.2. Yeah, I've lost my spot. 9.2 is a memo from the Director of Development and Technical Services in regards to the option to purchase Lot 5 Plan 32430-681 Thompson Drive South. Another memo from Director of Development. City Manager?
Yeah, so 681 Thompson Drive South is a vacant property. It's around 32,000 square feet. There's been no development on the property in the past, and the city does not have any environmental or geotechnical data on this property. It's currently the property behind KFC and next to a lossless agency. The council had previously granted an option to purchase to a different developer in the past, but that option was then dropped. That was back in 2022. The city of Thompson's received an option to purchase for the property from a group led by Parkamilchik Gill. He used to be the city's engineer, and he's left town. He's now in Alberta. But him and his consortium are planning to build a convenience store / car wash or another commercial property. Because the site doesn't have any environmental site assessment or geotechnical, The developer is willing to take on the cost themselves. And therefore is proposing a lower price value to pay the city for the property, around $20,000. The developer will cover the cost of the studies, but if it's determined that the property is not suitable for any construction or development, they're requesting that the city reimburse those fees as we not prepared those reports ahead of time. Given the lack of that data, the administration is recommending that committee the whole accept the application for the option and move it to council for a resolution next week. And that would, remember, just be the option on the land. A development agreement would still have to come later and be approved at that time.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? I like to see our community get back invested in the city. Councilor Lenmark?
Yeah, I agree. Nice to have around. My question though is, if they're going to do a study and do the geotechnical, you're saying what? We have no control over what testing they're doing. Like we put on, if we were doing it, we put on an RFP and say, this is what we need, this is how many test holes we want. And if this fails, if they don't take the land, they're asking for consideration for us to pay them back on it, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
I believe that's what they've asked.
That's my only concern. I just like to see what it is, and make sure it goes to our, that our director of development sees. I know that when she's an engineer. I mean, I can't say that it would follow the same specifications as we, but that's all that. So,
Thank you.
I'd like to know that.
Deputy Mayor. I guess just regarding the ESA or geotechnical, is it not common practice that the developer assumes that cost and that responsibility when they're developing land? Like, I guess just the way that the wording is in the memo, it makes it sound like it's common practice for us to do ESAs or geotechnical studies before we sell land or for preparing to sell land. But just coming from a background in development, it's typically the developer that assumes that cost, I guess. So I just wanted clarification on if this is normal practice that we've done in the past where we've, the city has assumed the responsibility of an ESA when we have developers that are looking to acquire land.
Since I've been here, I haven't experienced either case, to be honest. I believe in the past, the city did have geotechnical data because there was areas of permafrost in the community. That'd be well before I worked with the city. And I don't know if that was provided to the developers or if that was done by the developers. I don't have any information either. But since I've been here, we have not prepared these for developers.
Thank you. Yeah, my question, I guess, is, has anybody approached people in the Deerwood area about possible commercial venture in their backyard? And I mean, personally, I don't think we need another convenience store in that area. There's already two there. And the price they're offering seems to me like it's very low. That's my biggest concern is the price they want.
No, so no one would have approached any of the owners in that area because it'd still have to come to council and if there'd be variances or whatnot, but if that's something council wants. I'd have to check and see how that land is zoned. If it's already zoned for that use, then you really can't discriminate under the zoning bylaw against that type of business.
Yeah.
Sorry, the second question,
The price of the land.
the price of the land, that's negotiable with council. If the council's not satisfied with the price, council lets us know and we go back and say that's insufficient.
Councilor McCarthy, give that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My same with Louis and that was like, why do we need another car wash and a convenience store? Car wash is just, it's on the other side of the street. And there's convenience store and everything. My thank you.
Thank you. Samantha?
Typically under zoning, it's up to a business to decide if they want to take the risk or not, regardless of. So it depends how council wants to get involved or be laissez-faire. In the past, at least since I've been here, it's been laissez-faire that if a business developer wants to invest, as long as they meet the zoning, it's their choice what type of business they run.
Councilor John?
Yes, thank you. Like, when I look at this, is that the CD want the ESA geotech data or they want the data? Like,
The developer wants the data.
so the developer want the data, so they want to go forward and get the data. And this is a piece of land, never been used anything before, right?
That would be the purpose of the initial ESA, environmental site assessment, is to
Okay.
make sure there's never been used, there's no contamination there. Or that there's been migration onto the site. So it's basically the developer trying to protect themselves in the development, that if they buy a piece of property. That is contaminated, they would incur the cost of having to clean it, so.
So how could the city have to pay for his, like, to get the geodata?
That's what they're proposing, if council doesn't like it, then we go back. and
I
say-
don't think it's a responsibility of the city to pay for him and refund the $20,000.
Yeah, so that's council's decision. So if you provide us that direction, that's what we would go with.
So right now, he wants to buy the land from us for 20,000. He's
Yeah.
gonna pay to get the geotech and the ESA or ESC data. And if he doesn't like the results, then he wants to kind of give it back to us, and we gotta give him back his 20,000.
I do think this is the direction we go forward to, right? To me, you want to buy the piece of land, this is the low price you get. You go forward and do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's whatever
That's
council
fine, yeah.
direction is.
Counselor Wong?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think 20,000 is acceptable to me. But I would not agree to reimburse if anything happened to the study or the geotech issue. So if they want us to reimburse for that, the price gotta go down. So that way, at least we can cover that part. But right now, we really lowball ourselves to sell this land for this amount. So the condition is, I will accept, like, I think 20,000 is acceptable for the piece of land, because it's kind of like awkward land size. It's just going to be, going to sit there forever to me. But I will not accept the reimburse. Only way I will accept reimburse is we have to check up the price, whatever price it can come to. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Great, Counselor Ripper?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would agree that, I'm not comfortable with it stating that we have to reimburse, any fees for the ESA or geotechnical work that they do. That's part of the costs that you need when you develop land, and I don't think that that should be on us to pay for. As for the price, I'm fine with the price itself. I mean, that land has been sitting vacant since before I was born, I was gonna say, because I always remember it being vacant, because I grew up very close to that parcel of land, and it has always been vacant. So the price is a little bit less concerning to me. But I think that if they're deciding to move forward and develop and invest in that land, then those are costs that they should be taking responsibility for as a part of that development. And I'm not comfortable saying that we would reimburse them for any fees, if it's deemed not suitable for construction.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead.
So if there's a consensus developing, we could go back on behalf of council. And the position of council would be. That they're comfortable with the cost as long as we will not be reimbursing any. If that's
That
consensus, we could bring that back as council's negotiating position.
Everybody's in favor of that as a consensus, then we'll go back to them. Oh,
Yeah, Councilor Wong.
Thank you.
sorry, go ahead.
Just a second though. This property, it was offered like 3 times more than this before. So that's kind of give you some idea. If you want to take the responsibility, that price is where we can negotiate, just as some idea. Thank you.
So right now I'm looking for a consensus for the price for 20,000. They will not get reimbursed at whatever data they get from the geotech and ESA areas. Consensus for that?
Yeah, got
Okay. 10.1 is an email from Volker Beckman, event manager of the Northern Transportation Symposium regarding event sponsorship. I go to city manager.
Yeah, so this has come to previous meetings of council. There were questions out of the last meeting of council. Asking if we could make contributions in kind. as I believe they're asking for $7,500 for their event. The questions were put forward to the Chamber of Commerce on council's behalf. They said they are not using any city facilities, that the event has put a deposit down at the Legion to hold the dates for the event, and that they could cancel if given 60 days notice. The Chamber of Commerce is hosting and is the lead on the event. The Board of Directors are in charge of the event. Mr. Beckman is the event manager, but it is a chamber initiative, and that there are no other partners involved. The sponsors that they said they had to date, this was in July, were Calmair, Supply Chain Canada, and Valet, and that they had received donations of hotel stays from the Best Western and the Quality Inn.
Okay, so this is brought forth to us a few times. Their ask is for $7,500. I did speak with Mayor Smoot beforehand, and she said that there was a feeling of a little bit of lack of Indigenous component to this symposium. So she did reach out to MKO and KTC, and they were just given the letter requesting cash. There was no inclusion or discussion with them also. So I don't know. I think that might have been brought up also when we discussed this. So she asked me to pass that on also. So we did have questions and city managers answered. So what is the feeling of council on where they would like to go with this? Anybody want to make comment first or? Councilman.
Did we not set money aside in the budget for part of this?
City manager.
Council set aside $10,000 this year for sponsorships, and you've already spent $2,500 towards seniors, leaving you $7,500. So if you were to sponsor at the level they're requesting, you would spend the rest of what you put aside for sponsorships for the year.
I know just in myself, I don't see any hands up that I'm not comfortable with the level of engagement or commitment that they have from sponsors to feel comfortable in giving $7,500 to this event. I think we also had asked if they had anybody registered to attend. Not sure if we got an answer on that or if they.
I believe there were 21 participants, but I don't have.
Okay. Councilor Patrick.
Thank you. As for the sponsorship, I think the feeling on council when we had the presentation initially, at least my perception was that our sponsorship would be rentals in kind, that we'd rent and let them use TRCC and our facilities. I don't think we were really anticipating a monetary sponsorship.
That's kind of my understanding. Also, any other comments from council? Councilor Oberdorfer?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that it didn't come to us soon enough that we could have offered space. We have the facilities to host an event like this, and it would have been a great opportunity for partnership. I have to agree that just looking at the information that was provided to us, there is a lack of Indigenous representation on the agenda, and I would like to see improvements in that area. But I do think that it's important still for us to be able to a Northern Transportation Symposium if it is happening. I don't think that I'm comfortable with us sponsoring at a gold level only because that would use the entirety of our sponsorship budget for the year. So maybe we can look at like a bronze level sponsorship where we're matching the level of sponsorship that we provided to the seniors. And I don't know if there's any way for us to have that discussion with the event organizers regarding our concerns with the sort of, I don't want to say Indigenous engagement, but just the lack of what appears to be on the agenda. And so Northern Transportation doesn't just affect Thompson, it affects our entire region and a lot of the communities around us. So I think that having MKO KTC at the table and the various communities that they represent is really important in conversations that I'm assuming will happen at this event. So it's just.
Thank you, Councilman Carter. Oh, Councilor Lundmark.
Heather,
Can't see this. Sorry.
thanks again. I think with this northern transportation, I don't believe it was advertised right, so to the communities, the 55,000 people that use the community as a transportation. Like, everything comes through here, goes to all those communities, all these, ideas that we're looking at through this transportation symposium, the airports, the rail, airships, drones, EVs, winter weather testing, things that are going on at the airport, things that are going on through our winter weather testing. It's an industry that could thrive and we can push forward is with economic development. I think that we could sponsor at least flying with silver. I think it's important for our community to grow. And it's an industry that we haven't put a lot into, other than what the import does, what the Chamber of Commerce and our Community Development Corporation and Community Future, and everybody else does. It would be something for the communities to see, and I hope that they sent letters managing this symposium to those communities that use us as a hub, or to even to the partners that use it, like even northern stores, stuff like that. Like there's different ways for them to get the items out there. And I think this could help, be a place where everybody could get together and say, hey, how can we help each other on this? How do we get materials into the communities? How do we get the food and groceries and parts and equipment, even ballet with all their exploration that they're doing. So sad with that, but I think that we need to help this, and I think it will help us in the long run. And whether that comes out of that one particular plot, but we also get the funds from the hotel stays that are tax on that as well. Anyway, I'd be fine with silver.
Thank you. Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question is, it says northern transportation, but it's where. Like, there's no representation from them to MKU, to KTC, to the north, to the reserves and all this, and how it's gonna help them, how it's gonna support them and. How it's gonna, like especially with the freight, the rates and everything, like it's $500 to take some groceries to Oxford House, you know? And for them to come and shop here and they spend $500. So like there's just not enough presentation. And for they have all these, the trains, planes and automobiles and all this, you know, but it's not represented enough to the Indigenous reserves, Indigenous people in that, and it's like we do need it and that so that we can get our reserves supported by rates and everything. But I don't see proper representation, no, not enough information. And with the donation part. We'll comment on it right now. Thank you.
Okay, any other councillors? Councillor Chung.
Thank you. I kind of support Councillor Lama's idea about like at least the city show we support this initiative, right? If the city not support this initiative, how do we expect other organizations to support? So I would say possibility we can at least like a silver or something like that support, rather than just say no. It's very disappointing.
Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we're shifting the objective of this symposium right now, the topic we're talking about. I think basically I hear very clear about what they're trying to do. They try to put this package together, put this event together, and it's a start. I think the second thing, what we're talking about, the involvement and all that, I believe they are looking into it, but this is the first step. So I don't want to change the topic about this. I think I agree, it's important for us to involve. How far we want to involve, I think also the CFO already mentioned that we do have the money for sponsoring the goal. And as a city of Thompson, I think we should be a leader of this. Okay, and if we can sponsor some other thing that which is not even located in Thompson for bigger amount, I think it's a shame if we don't do this. So I suggest we should give it a try. If they fail, we know right away. But if we don't try, we don't support, how do we know the result? So I will go for the goal myself, and of course, the majority rule. So that will be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just my comments, the most I would be comfortable with is a bronze, just with talking to partners and throughout the community with the lack of how this has been organized. And I would also want to know if it gets canceled, if we would be getting our money back. Before I would be comfortable going any higher than bronze. Any other comments? Councilor Oberhofer?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think I would be comfortable moving to silver. I mean, it is, as other councilors have said, it is important for us to support this event. But I think in saying that, we should also provide our feedback as a municipality. I think in saying that we want to support the event, it's also important for us to, I think, voice any concerns potentially that we have or questions that we have. I know we've already asked them questions, but I think just to point out, you know, there's been a few councilors that have mentioned regarding the agenda. I think it doesn't hurt to share that information, that those concerns came forward. But I would still be comfortable with supporting the event itself. My other question, I guess, would be about registration. And my understanding is that registration is open. And I guess kind of putting that out there to council as to who's attending. And getting registered is also a way that we can show that we're supporting it, right? So.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with, or how do I want to do this? See consensus for each level?
No, I would say I would just start, a consensus on do you want to support it or not? That's the quickest way to start, and then you can do by level.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who wants to support this symposium? Okay, so there's a consensus to support. Okay, so who is wanting to support 2,500 is the minimum?
I would go with gold because that's a request.
Oh, okay, who wants to support the request for the gold sponsorship for 7,500? Okay, so we're not going with gold. Who wants to support the sponsorship of silver at, is that 5,000? 5,000. Yeah, I got 4 for 5,000, and who wants to support bronze at 2,500? So it's gonna be silver. With the comments back.
Is that a consensus that council wants me to deliver the comments?
All those in favor of comments going back?
Yeah.
That's a consensus, yep. All right. We're gonna go on to 10.2. An email from the executive director of AMM in regards to the AMM executive elections happening this fall. Here's an email attached. Now here, you wanna, how do you want this?
Yep, so this is something that comes up all the time, AMM's having its elections for its executive. It requires that nominations come in from the city, before. It's really, is there an interest of anyone running for any of these positions, or there'd be the president and the vice president, I would be 2 vice president positions.
So I can. Oh, sorry, I was just. You guys both have your hands up, I was just gonna say something, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to elect or nominate our deputy mayor, Kathy Valentino, for vice president.
Okay. So I was gonna speak to this, currently I have been holding the position for vice president. And I would be looking for council support to have my name stand again at November's convention if it was the will of council to support a resolution for next Monday. So what do I do? Ask for a consensus about what I just said? That seems odd.
You, I'll allow some discussion, but he's just nominated you, so you have to say if you're accepting his nomination.
Oh, yeah, I would accept your nomination, Councilor Patrick.
but I would go for discussion first before you.
Right,
bring
it's
forward
kind
a
of awkward,
resolution.
it's about me, so any comments? Okay, Councillor Landmark,
Yeah, I appreciate everything that you've brought back to us. I know that you're there as an AMM vice president, you'd be there for every municipality and at the same time. You get all that information, see where we can go, how we can help, how we can get our resolutions to the board. And it's a great insight for us. Appreciate it, Kathy.
thank you.
Deputy Mayor Valentino. No, yeah, I'm glad you're there. It's, and having, Councilor Fitzpatrick on KMM as well, it's really helpful. I appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you.
It's a lot more. Thank you.
Councillor Wong,
Thank you. For they're not looking for president as well.
Yes,
President and 2 vice presidents.
president and 2 vice presidents.
Yeah.
So you're a vice president, why don't you go for president?
Oh,
I don't get it, like.
Yeah, why not?
oh, no, because I'm comfortable in the vice, I've learned a lot these last 2 years, and I'd be comfortable in continuing to learn in this role,
So you want to go for vice president again,
Yeah.
not the president.
not the president.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments for good, Councillor Order?
Yeah, I would just like to, echo both of my counselor's comments. I think you, would have shot at president, but I know you're wanting to do vice president again, so I would definitely, support, you running again and, just to echo what Councilor Wellmark said, like, it brings, great value having you there, and just thank you for all of the hard work you put in outside of this table here, at AMM and now at FCM. I know it's a lot, but it definitely brings a lot of value to us here, and we really appreciate, that you bring a lot of knowledge from other municipalities that you learn. And what you learn at AMM, I think really helps, us here when we're making decisions and certain things that come up, so thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Chung?
Thank you. I do need to pump your tire, okay?
No, I know. Saying all this to me.
Okay, the last time they did deliver a speech for running for the vice president,
Yeah.
it's very impressive. I like that.
Thank you.
So I'm very happy that you're going to try again. I will
Thank you.
support it.
Okay, thank you. Jeez. Yeah, we're moving on. Councillor McIver, you for guys.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support too, is where I'm glad you're there and I'm not.
I wouldn't put it if I didn't love it. Councillor Wong?
I would like to nominate the Councilor Fitzpatrick for the vice president. You already done 2 terms. As a,
No, thank you.
no?
Thank you. I appreciate it, but no.
Is there any history that the same municipality have 2 vice presidents in the AMM?
It'd be a hard to elect, but I don't think there has, it would be a tough sell.
Very hard stuff.
We need a
Well,
voice
thank
for
you.
the north.
He's the Northern District rep. Okay, 10.3,
I'm on
sorry.
resolutions.
So is there a consensus to bring the resolution
Yeah.
forward?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of yeah, we do. Okay, we're getting to 10.3, 2026 Manitoba Winter Games. There's 2 attachments for the city manager.
Yep, so there's been discussions with the school board as well as with council and in-camera sessions on the potential of hosting the 2026 Manitoba Winter Games. The multi-party agreement is attached for council's consideration and discussion with the recommendation that this be brought forth at the next regular meeting of council for a resolution to approve this. It would then be announced that week, next week at the games in Dauphin. The summer games, they would announce that Thompson would be the next host for the winter games.
We've discussed this before, council. I just need, any questions on this?
No.
Councilor Oberdorfer?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be in support of this. My only question is, just this letter from the school district is dated June 12th. Given what's happened with Westwood School, is there any changes in their ability to host the games? Do we know if there's any concerns with that?
We've not heard any concerns from them. I could check, but we haven't heard anything My understanding is, I believe Westwood was one of the athlete villages in the past. So I worked that village when we had the last games. But that they would pivot. And there's been discussion that Riverside School was kind of used for the adults, coaches, was very heavily underused as compared to the other villages. So there could be a pivot on how that school is used, but I can check with the school district before next week's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Wong?
Thank you, David. Do we have, I thought that, do we have to put up the money this time or is that, they're not asking us to put up any money this time?
So unlike the previous games, after discussions from the mayor and deputy mayor with the winter games in the province, the city would not have to put that money up.
Not this
So,
time.
Not this time. They would still encourage us to fundraise, obviously. There would be a requirement that the city invest $100,000 into its sports facilities. But as we've discussed with council, you'd already be spending that in excess of that already just on maintenance and upgrades that you're doing already. So, and from what we've heard, there's also opportunities to work with Manitoba Liquor Lotteries as well as Efficiency Manitoba and others, where they will consider upgrades to our facilities as part of helping put the games on.
Part of the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, they came to us asking, so we were adamant back that we weren't gonna go to our community to fundraise, because our fundraising efforts are for the new aquatic facility. So everyone's good for consensus to move this forward for next week. The minister will announce it at the closing ceremonies in Dawson. Yeah, was a consensus. 10.4 is a letter from the Honorable Ian Bushy, Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations and the Minister of Indigenous Economic Development. Kind of thought this was an odd.
Yeah, it's a generic thank you letter from the minister because our community participated in a survey. So it's really just information.
You guys don't need me to read that out. We're gonna get it back. Okay, that's the last thing on our agenda. I just wanted, in light of the fire that took place at Westwood Elementary School, we'd like to give a thanks to Thompson Fire Emergency Services and to all of our departments within the city of Thompson and to our city employees. Everybody was asked to do things in different departments and we certainly appreciate the help that day. To Valet and their fire department, their support, to our Thompson Auxiliary Fire Department, and to the Office of Fire Commissioner, who was also, they were on site also. So thank you to everyone. And all information for the community is on the School District Mystery Lake website and the Facebook page moving forward. With that, I'll call for adjournment. Councillor Oberdorfer, Councillor Landmark, all in favor? Thank you, we are adjourned. We're a chatty bunch tonight, but we hadn't seen each other for a while now.